Welcome to the 15th issue of your National Library television program, a presentation of the American Library Association and Baltimore County Public Library. I'm Angela Stribling, your host for LVM. And if you've noticed the word magazine missing from our neon logo, blame it on a prophetic accident just before we began taping. In our 4 years as a magazine, we've covered library services in all their glorious variety and in every region of the country. Looking ahead, however, we'll be exploring a more selective approach to library video, offering viewers a choice of in-depth coverage according to areas of interest. Watch for announcements from ALA. We've got a pair of different drummers to liven up this issue, just as they've livened up the library field over the years. Both marched to a very different beat from their colleagues, and yet each was among the top leaders named in a recent survey of library professionals. We'll open the show with the first drummer, pounding away in West Virginia, and close with the second, bashing at his favorite targets from Arizona. In between, we've got news and updates from Washington, Chicago, and Virginia Beach. And now, off to West Virginia.
Fred Glazer seems like the type of person who's a real go-getter and likes to do things for other people.
He's done more for the library system than anybody I know.
No, I wouldn't be surprised at anything that Mr. Glazer would come up with. I think he's really creative.
Most librarians see plaid when they think of Fred Glazer, huckster, ad man, super salesman. The state librarian for West Virginia sells libraries the way Madison Avenue sells running shoes. And though his methods may be controversial in some quarters, the results speak for themselves. He's put libraries on the map, literally, dozens of them in places where service never existed. His hero, P.T. Barnum. His philosophy, put libraries everywhere, especially in the headlines.
I think our librarians can learn so much from biographies of great merchandisers, the biographies of bold people who made a contribution, not by sitting back behind the charge desk in their office waiting for something to happen. Nothing happens when you wait. You've got to be proactive. You've got to, anything that happens in a community, the first question is, how does this relate to my library? How can I involve the library?
Fred hit the West Virginia library system like a firecracker in 1972. He inherited an 8 cents per capita tax revenue, which barely kept the state's 88 libraries alive. His mission? To bring library service to West Virginians, no matter where they lived and no matter what the economic conditions in their county. How to do it? By shocking the state legislature into action. One day, on his way to a funding session, lightning struck.
In those days, lifesavers were 8 cents. So as I was having one, I realized I'm spending as much for this pack of candy as the state's spending on libraries. The legislature should be made aware of this. So when I went up there, I took these lifesavers and started distributing them to the Finance Committee. And every day during that legislative session, I passed out lifesavers. In fact, it says the same letters, LS, Lifesaver, Library Saver. And it must have worked because they doubled the 8 cents, so now we could get 2 packs of lifesavers.
Today, the library's tax income is nearly $3 per capita, over 35 times what it once was. Glazer has pumped some of these funds into an economic, automated system, linking libraries throughout the state. His knack for putting tax money to work has paid off elsewhere. During his tenure, the number of libraries in the state has more than doubled. And like Glazer himself, the new libraries draw attention.
The Instant Carousel Library had its birth in West Virginia, and the name implies everything that it is. Merry-go-round, excitement. Everybody likes a carnival or an amusement park, and so it was an Instant Carousel Library with windows in front where the colors and excitement from the inside could radiate to the viewer without. To get off the phone. I said, well, how long
when we visited Glazer during National Library Week, he was up to his usual tricks, creating media events to hype library services, like choppering down to Peterstown to wow the kids and talk up reading.
If you're interested in helicopters, this man right here can tell you it all began at his local library.
or hobnobbing with the state's leaders to talk up libraries,
Mark B. Starcher, Calhoun Public Library.
or arranging a lunch with the governor for winners of a library-sponsored essay contest. Mover, shaker, and showman, Glazer is a former advertising apprentice who has advertised the good work of libraries and librarians, perhaps more than any other individual. By hustling for a cause he believes in, taking risks, and delivering on the services he promises, he has paved the way for others to take on the impossible. And as he flew off on yet another library mission, he left us with this rallying cry.
Up, up and away!
The American memory, spanning centuries and billions of lives. A profusion of voices, written words, images, blurred in the mists of time. The Library of Congress seeks to focus that experience in its American Memory Project, choosing from the library's unique holdings of manuscripts, films, photographs, and sound recordings. The library will produce American Memory study units in electronic optical formats. Each unit will contain primary materials rarely seen by the general public.
In this case, I found a picture of some streets down in Alexandria on Main Street.
Test collections are in place in several high schools around the country. Project consultant Mary Chabot feels that the American Memory Project will open up new doors for students.
To the student, it's an exciting way to search for information. It's an alternative to plowing through books or to using an encyclopedia where everything's been pre-packaged for them. This gives them a chance to do original research, which some of them seem to find very exciting.
The original materials included in this testing phase are a diverse group. Postcards from the Detroit Publishing Company of turn-of-the-century American scenes. A pamphlet collection of historical writings by African-American authors on culture and history. Early paper print motion pictures of American cities and people. The U.S. Congress, portrayed in 200 years of political prints and drawings.
Well, the selection is a matter of sort of balancing different considerations. There's not a clear set of criteria that can be applied in every case. We're trying really to look at what would be useful to provide to people, things that are being studied, for example, in secondary school and American history courses, things that bear on that. At the same time, the Library of Congress has, unhappily, a very large backlog of unprocessed collections, and every time we can pick something out of our backlog, we want to do it.
I, James H. Billington,
do solemnly swear
that I will support...
In September 1987, at his swearing-in ceremony, Librarian of Congress James Billington pledged to share the wealth of the library. Today, he sees the program not only as a sharing of sources, but as an experiment in education.
You have to use your mind to determine what relates to what else in a large archive of pictures or a large archive of recorded sound. The really exciting thing to me is the young school child getting excited as he sits at a word processor with that screen in front of him, trying to call up different elements from the 25,000, 40,000 items that will be on a single disk.
Each American Memory workstation houses a microcomputer with 2 optical disc players, a television monitor to display images, and the computer monitor. After entering key words, the user has the option of printing her hits or incorporating images into the desktop publishing software available as part of the package. Thus, it is possible for a researcher to compose a paper or image presentation while sitting at the terminal.
It has so much potential. We're really excited to be able to be in on the ground floor of it and see the kinds of things that are being produced. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for people across the country to get a little picture, a little window into what's going on at the Library of Congress and some of the wonders and treasures that are there. It's nice to have the opportunity to share that with the students.
With major help from donors, the Library of Congress plans to spend about $6 million on the project over the next 6 years.
War means victory for our cause or danger to the very existence of our nation.
About 15 to 20 collections will be completed by 1995, along with user surveys and refinement of equipment.
The reason to do something like American Memory is in order to share the contents as well as the cataloging of the nation's library with the nation that has subsidized and created this extraordinary collection, but most of which most people will never see. And therefore, there is so much richness here, there is so much variety, there is so much of our nation's memory stored away here that it seems the time has come to get it out, get the champagne out of the bottle, as we say around here.
The American Library Association marked a historic milestone this year when it admitted its 50,000th member, Wendy Sinnott of Long Island, New York. Miss Sinnott recently graduated from Long Island University and is now a librarian at East Islip High School. She was honored with an all-expense-paid trip to the ALA convention in Chicago.
It was very unexpected. It was funny. I knew I was graduating soon, so I thought, well, I'll join and get the publications, see what's going on, find out. And this was more than I ever expected. It's great, a little overwhelming and confusing and here and there, but it's quite exciting. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I've met a lot of nice people and it seems like a good field to have gone into, a lot of different things you can do with it.
By admitting its 50,000th member, ALA proves it has come a long way. Could the people in this 1886 photograph have ever imagined ALA would be so big? Or how about these turn-of-the-century thrill seekers? It took ALA 51 years to reach the 10,000-member plateau, but ALA has added 10,000 members just in the last 4 years. So what does all this mean to the 50,000th member?
The past president yesterday at the reception, Eric Moon, was very nice. He said, just think in 20 years you could be in Pat Berger's place and making the 100,000th member feel welcome.
In our last look at you, the library worker, we talked to job seekers and employers at the ALA Placement Center to catch the flavor of the professional marketplace. We learned that overall, qualified professionals are in short supply, which paves the way to greater opportunity and power for the professional library worker. Such a shortage also increases the number of so-called non-professionals or paraprofessionals called upon to perform library work. For this issue, we talked to such workers to see what opportunities, if any, were coming their way. What makes a person a professional? In most library systems, you aren't considered a professional unless you have at least a master's degree in library science. Without that degree, many library workers believe they are denied meaningful promotions, continuing education, and respect. But now, such workers are organizing at the state and national levels. What do they want?
I think what we'd really like to be is to be considered professionals. Many of library workers like myself have been in the profession for years, and because of one reason or another, did not go away and get an MLS degree. But we have been in that job for a period of time and do it in a professional manner.
Support staff people should be able to achieve as much as they're capable of, that there should be a lot of growth potential, a lot of different jobs that they can do because there's a lot of people with a lot of talent.
Paraprofessionals, or support staff as they prefer to be called, believe they should be rewarded for performing their jobs well and wanting to make library work their career. Instead, many support staff workers find their career paths blocked by lack of an MLS.
I want to have some more career mobility. There are no real ways to move up. you can change jobs, but they're pretty much on a lateral level. There's not very much mobility at all.
I think we can, as paraprofessionals or support staff, do the same as professionals. If we're provided the proper training, continuing education, whatever's needed, we can do it.
One library system that treats paraprofessionals as equal partners in public service is the Virginia Beach Public Library.
We do rely upon knowledge, skills, and abilities as our basis of people moving about into positions that might at one time have been assumed to be paraprofessional or assumed to be professional. We do have a lid on that development in our library. The managers of each of our buildings is a degreed librarian by state law. But aside from that, we have achieved in this library, I think, easy movement among positions.
In fact, the Virginia Beach Public Library features librarians and support staff working side by side at the reference desk. The result?
The public, of course, perceives anybody who's in the library as a librarian. And in fact, the way the paraprofessionals respond to questions is almost indistinguishable from those who have a master's degree. In the end, it tends to break down with some of the more in-depth questions are done by the professionals, and the routine, everyday type things are done by the paraprofessionals.
We answer their questions, they're comfortable with our answers, we give them what they want, and we don't have an MLS, so we can do the job, and we're out there doing it now.
We also encourage the paraprofessionals, where possible, to continue their education and get their master's degrees and aspire to that level. We also recognize, of course, that many paraprofessionals, for whatever reason, cannot further their education, either because of family obligations or whatever it may be. So we try and provide alternative career paths for those people. I think the ideal relationship is a partnership, and here that's what we try and strive for, is that the paraprofessionals are treated as equal partners in public service.
The story isn't the same at other library systems. In addition to facing opposition from library administrators, support staff come up against their coworkers.
I'm afraid that there is tension between libraries and paraprofessionals, and from what I see, that has to do with a long history of paraprofessionals and support staff being reminded constantly that they're not librarians. I know that I personally have been in conversations with librarians that when they find out that you're not a librarian, they won't talk to you the same way. Or actually there was a situation where a person that we were in a conversation with, she actually turned the other way and would not continue to talk to us.
Despite what support staff see as a cold shoulder from librarians, the library profession at large is beginning to listen. Recently, ALA set up a subcommittee within its education group to explore the situation of support staff in libraries. Those support staff emerging as national leaders hope more librarians will join them in fostering higher status for non-MLS staff and empowerment for all library workers.
I really feel that the librarians and the support staff need to work together to increase salary for everyone in this whole profession. I hope that we can continue to interface in professional organizations and meetings and even in the workplace so that librarians can gain appreciation for the knowledge and the expertise that support staff people have, and on the other hand, support staff people can appreciate the unique value that librarians have.
In January 1987, the American Library Association held its midwinter meeting in Chicago, but librarians who wished to visit the city's central library found nothing but a limbo of temporary and projected sites. Among those searching for the central building was Library Video Magazine, whose trail ended in an urban Arctic wasteland.
Where's the library? Well, what do you know? Here in this same spot,
2.5 years and some $175 million later is the Central Library. Almost. Scheduled for completion next year, the Harold Washington Library Center already shows the dimensions that will make it the largest municipal library ever built. It also represents a victory for postmodernist architect Thomas H. Beebe, whose design beat 4 other finalists in a high-stakes design-build competition in 1988. Helping to keep things on target is architect Kevin Campbell, the library's acting project director, who took time out from a frantic schedule to be with us today on the site. Kevin, when we look at this concrete colossus, what are we seeing at this stage?
Well, Art, we're starting to see some of the architectural details come out that made this classical design exciting to the design-build jury. The workmen have begun to do the granite work, the masonry that makes this building fit in with the classical architecture in this part of Chicago. The first space that you enter when you come in here is the complex lobby. It's a 3-story space. Off to our left is our film video department. Off to our right is the auditorium. Throughout the building we have electronic directories where a patron, child or adult, could enter their preference, say American literature, and the directory would have come up on its computer screen a map showing how to get from where they are now to where American literature is. Don't forget your hard hat.
Oh, thanks. Is this the top floor?
There's a floor above this that has administrative offices, but this is the top public service floor. This area, the Winter Garden, is one space in the building where we're hoping to encourage the public to come on a regular basis. It's kind of the living room of the library, if you will. There's trees and planting in here when it's complete. The glass vaulted ceiling, the glass on the east facade to let in a lot of natural light. Even the public restaurant being on this floor makes it a magnet and attraction.
It's now clear that Chicago will have its central library, world-class in size and design. At this point, however, no one knows how the city will fund a world-class collection and world-class staffing. But not to worry. 30 months ago, no one knew how to find the Central Library, and now look. From the city that works, eventually, Art Plotnick for LVM.
Will Manley, outspoken columnist for Wilson Library Bulletin, director of the Tempe Public Library, critic of trendy library movements and everything else. Manley has his own ideas on how to build a new library building.
The first step is to involve your library board, because the first thing that you really worry about is that A, you're going to end up with an ugly building, and the second thing is you're going to end up with an ugly building that's also very dysfunctional. So you want to involve the library board throughout. So if at the end of the project you have an ugly building that's dysfunctional, then you can blame it on your board. What we tried to do with this library in its design phase was build it around a particular philosophy of service. And that philosophy of service basically depends a great deal on one, priority of the book. We wanted large and generous spaces for the book collection, for collection growth. Secondly, we wanted a building that was oriented around children. Key to our service philosophy is to get children involved in the library. So those were the main conceptual ideas that we wanted to be made concrete in the building. We are a society that is just strangled by electronic forms of entertainment. And for libraries, which should be promoting the art of reading, to provide these entertainment sources makes no sense.
In Tempe, there are over 150 video rental outlets. The private sector is doing a wonderful job of turning people into couch potatoes. Why should we contribute? However, in Tempe, there are only 2 bookstores, and those 2 bookstores carry less than 1/2 of 1% of the total publishing output in the country. So there's a place for the library. We can't afford to spend book money on audiovisual, nor is there any reason for us to. My philosophy is give them what they need. We are spending taxpayers' money. That's a scarce resource. I don't think in the long run our taxpayers want us wasting their money on frivolous recreational pursuits. I think fundamentally we're an educational institution. And as an educational institution, we don't necessarily cater to public whim. Oh, I think without a doubt there are a lot of people who do not like me at all. But I do think I speak to a lot of issues that a lot of people in our profession believe in, but for one reason or another, peer pressure or social pressure, they don't want to articulate that publicly. Why do librarians who are overstressed, underpaid, understaffed, create an organization that is so fractious and so stressful? I mean, look at the issues that they deal with. Most of them are organizational. Who needs that? Who cares what the relationship of ALA is to its various divisions and satellites? What has ALA done for me? What's it done for any working librarian? Very, very little. It's, I think Shakespeare said, ALA is full of sound and fury, and it signifies nothing. Well, it's sort of like ALA believes that librarians need a religion to grab onto, and intellectual freedom is a kind of religion. And the high priests of this religion are the mucky-mucks in ALA. You know, a lot of times I get the feeling that ALA is more concerned about their own intellectual freedom than everybody else's. It's no different to me to have a constituent group concerned about what's in the library than to have a constituent group worried about how a particular area of your city is going to be zoned and developed. So I think we need to get intellectual freedom off of its sort of religious pedestal within the profession and get it down into the real world, and then we can start talking about it. I guess sort of my great ambition in life is that I want to get on a Reed poster. So I've thought about ways to do that. Running for president and being elected, I might get on a Reed poster. If I got selected Pope, I think I could get on a Reed poster. Or if I won a gold medal at the Olympics, you know, all those kinds of things. You know, so I'm still hoping I'll get on a Reed poster, but I'm realistic enough to know it's not going to be as a librarian.
Well, a little ALA bashing is always healthy, even in an ALA co-production. Thanks for your views, Will. And from the video folks at ALA as well as at Baltimore County, a special thanks to all you different drummers out there who help support our pioneering efforts. The LVM archive of library life near the end of a millennium, some 90 story segments in all, is a resource that will be used well into the 2000s. Our thanks also to Gaylord Brothers, a trusted source, for their assist this year, and to Jones Cable, offering back issues of LVM to thousands of viewers throughout the nation. So long from all of us. Gaylord Brothers, a trusted source for innovative library products for nearly a century, has contributed to Library Video Magazine, and we thank them for their support.